What's going on, guys? Good morning. Welcome back to United View. It'd be good if I actually realised what I was going to say before I actually opened my mouth. Yes, good morning. Welcome back to another edition of the Morning View. Welcome back to United View. How is everybody doing? Hope you're all doing very well. Hope you're having a good bank holiday weekend here in the UK. Another bank holiday weekend because of the coronation. Obviously, around the world, it might not be a bank holiday. Just hope you're having a good morning, a good Monday morning, bright and early, 9 a.m. settings as always. Plenty to talk about this morning. We're going to be talking about David De Gea, a new contract possibly for him. Erik ten Hag firmly backing his goalkeeper after the howler, in yesterday's 1-0 defeat against West Ham. We're going to talk about that, talk about his contract negotiations in general, future plans for a goalkeeper. We're going to talk a little bit about the issues when it comes to Manchester United inability at the moment to score goals, really a problem throughout the entirety of the season, but particularly in the last few weeks. I'm going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about having a week of rest ahead of this coming weekend's match against Wolves, 3 p.m. Saturday, Old Trafford, must win. We need 3 wins out of our last 4 games to qualify for the top 4. We're going to be talking about if we're even going to get those 3 victories. In addition, we're going to be talking about some future plans, even if United can plan for the future, given about what's going on with the takeover situation or lack of movement in the takeover situation. But this morning there have been, once again, links to, you guessed it, Frenkie de Jong. Oh yes, the Frenkie ride is getting back up and running just in time for the summer transfer window, so we'll talk about that. Marco Verratti, links to him too. And some people I saw were questioning, why didn't Alejandro Garnacho come on yesterday against West Ham? He was fit enough for the bench, so why didn't he come on? Well, Erik ten Hag has explained that as well. So plenty to get into this morning, so be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. As always, we'll get your comments up on the screen. And Blue Dabba Dabba Die says Bruno created the most chances in the Premier League, but our strikers can't finish. We are going to be talking about the lack of being able to score. Certainly, it's a problem at the moment. CH says, good morning, Owen. Good morning, CH. Good morning to all of our members and all of our supporters here on the channel. Plenty to get into. And as I mentioned, be sure to click the like button. Actually, let me see already. You know what I need to invest in? I need to invest in one of the I don't know if you saw it yesterday during the match view. There is a pop-up Mr. Phelan. A rogue pop-up Mr. Phelan has emerged here at United View. And he kind of just pops up in the corners and says, 500 likes is the target, or 750 likes is the target. And then when we hit the target yesterday, he said, thanks for the likes. And then he disappeared and he sort of vanished off, which was quite fun. Although, when you're losing, having a smiling Mr. Phelan with a speech bubble going, 750 likes is the target, you just want to hit him. And when we hit the targets, I put up a couple of messages to people going, get Mr. Phelan off the screen. He's a disgrace and he's a cheat. He's, Sashiv says, big up, Owen. Woke up at 4 a.m. to watch this crap performance. And I laughed. Big up yourself, Sashiv. And yes, imagine that. Imagine waking up that early in the morning to see that. Oh, my goodness me. Now, let's talk about David De Gea. Obviously, a huge mistake yesterday. Not his first this season. And I was talking to Flex after the game. We were on the phone as he was driving back home yesterday, actually. And we were talking about De Gea and what his future looks like, and have the scales tipped in one direction for him, and is enough? Is it time to go now, and all this kind of stuff. And we were talking about this season, mistakes he's made that aren't really linked to distribution. David De Gea has made a couple of mistakes this season linked to bad passing or an inability to pass up from the back. But we said, hey, let's think of the mistakes he's made that haven't been linked to distribution. And we could think of quite a few, which is really alarming. Yeah, whether it is the mistake he made yesterday, and that mistake he's made yesterday, he's made before this season. The mistake he made against Brentford. Remember, people forget that. That Brentford defeat away in the second game of the season, I think people think most about the pass into Eriksen, and he kind of sours him out with the pass, and then the Brentford players get it and they put it in. People think about that. I think about the one, which I think it was the opening goal in that game, which is a shot that it looks like De Gea saved it, and it just goes in. It just goes in. It's the exact same mistake that he made yesterday. He's made that mistake twice. He made one against Everton in the FA Cup where he sort of was standing there and it went through his legs and it went in. In previous seasons, he's made mistakes similar to that. But already, that's 3. You could argue the one against Sevilla coming out of the air, that's 4. And they're mistakes that really, really cost us, you know. And Blue Dabadai says, no, you're blaming David De Gea for the Brentford loss, you're a pure hater. I never said that. You are putting words in my mouth there. I said if you're going to look at mistakes, and the one against Brentford, it's the same. It's the same mistake as he made yesterday. My point being is, if you allow me to finish, and Blue Dabadai, is that good goalkeepers, and this isn't flip-flopping or anything like that, goalkeepers will make mistakes throughout the season based on distribution if you're going to play like that, okay? If you're going to play like playing out from the back, mistakes are gonna happen. Edison, Allison, Ramsdale, right? Those mistakes will happen because you're always walking the fine line. What you can't compensate for is mistakes like that. That's a problem. That is a massive problem. That is an issue. Now, I want to be as balanced and as fair as I possibly can this morning because I do also feel, and this isn't giving David De Gea the benefit of the doubt, and this isn't accepting David De Gea for making or allowing him for making the mistake yesterday, but I do think it's also a massive problem that in the last 2 games against Brentford and West Ham, we see ourselves in a situation where we're asking our defence and our goalkeeper to be perfect, absolutely perfect, because one individual error can cost us the entire game because our attackers can't score. If you do look at a team like Arsenal, like Man City, like Liverpool or whoever, or even really Newcastle at this point, if their goalkeeper made a mistake, I don't think they'd be particularly worried because they'd say, hey, these things happen, we'll go up the other end, we'll score, we know we're going to score goals. And let's face it, the De Gea mistake happened in, the 27th minute or something like that yesterday. We still had plenty of time within that game to go and score a goal, and we didn't because we can't at the moment. We can't score a goal. So that's a problem too. But the point, it doesn't make the mistake acceptable. And it's also a situation whereby this has happened. This has happened a few times this season. And it's happened a couple of times recently. At a time which, again, the scrutiny's on. And the contract negotiations are ongoing. And it is a problem. It is a problem. Now, as is always the case nowadays, with social media and with football Twitter or football social media nowadays, it's one or the other. You know, it's either De Gea's the problem or it's either, why are you going after De Gea? No, there is, again, I think there's both valid arguments in this one at the moment. I think it is a massive problem that we're not scoring goals and that if our keeper makes a mistake, we've lost the game because we're not scoring. But at the same time, I do think there has to be scrutiny on De Gea because that is a mistake that did cost us yesterday, and it's not the first time that specific mistake has happened this season, in addition to other mistakes as well. As I mentioned, like that essentially the same mistake happened against Brentford earlier on in the season. And at the same time, you're in contract negotiations to be still the highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League. That's a problem too. That is an issue. You know, and then you do get in the conversation for value for money, and you do get into the conversation of, okay, like I've sat here on a million shows and defended David De Gea shot stopping. That wasn't shot stopping yesterday, and frankly, it wasn't even just that mistake too. He got lucky a couple of times. They had a goal ruled out for a foul on De Gea, which, you know, another day wouldn't go our way. And then later on in the match, essentially the same thing happened to him and it wasn't given as a foul. He looked shaky yesterday. And it's because of the mistakes that he's been making recently, teams are starting to target him again. Fans, every time he has the ball at his feet now, you can hear the fans going, "Whoa," because they know. You can feel it. I saw Ajax speak on that chat he did with Flex and Sabi the other day. And they were saying they're Ajax fans, and they were in Old Trafford, and they said they could feel it, the tension when De Gea has the ball at his feet, because as a fan base and as people watching, they go, oof. You can feel it. It's like it's a mistake away from happening, and that's a problem. That is a problem. And again, at a time where he's in contract negotiations, I mean, I would ask the staunchest De Gea defenders, because I've been a De Gea defender this season, you know, is if he signed a contract tomorrow that was £200,000 a week, could you justify that? Because I'm not sure I could. Could I justify him being the highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League right now? I don't know if I could justify that. Now, again, as is the case with social media and that, people focus on that going, so you're saying David De Gea is the problem? No, I'm not saying he is the problem. I am not saying David De Gea is the sole reason for why we lost yesterday, because he's not the sole reason why we lost yesterday. In the same vein as that when Luke Shaw did the handball against Brighton, I said he wasn't the reason we lost. People can get pedantic about it and go, well, it's exactly that moment. That's the reason we lost the game. There are plenty of other factors at play at Manchester United at the moment, but De Gea is one of them. He is. Another problem is we don't score goals. In the same vein that David De Gea yesterday, in with that mistake, didn't do his job for the last, how many games or how many months, the front line for Manchester United haven't been doing their job either, because they ain't scoring. And the problem is, as a goalkeeper or as a defender, if you do make an individual mistake, it costs your team a goal, and people focus on that a lot more. But also, I look at Rashford, who's had a great season this season, but for whatever reason, in the last month or so, as he's come back from injury, it feels like he's regressed. I look at Anthony Martial, who came on yesterday. He did better than Weghorst. I have no idea why Wout Weghorst started yesterday. I think Ten Hag deserves scrutiny for the team he selected yesterday and some of the people in certain positions that he made and certain substitutions at certain times I don't think made any sense. I look at Anthony, on which I say that whilst I appreciate the work rate and tracking back, I think his decision-making really leaves a lot to be desired too. Picking the wrong pass. And as I mentioned, that De Gea mistake happened prior to 30 minutes in the game. We still had, 60 minutes plus stoppage time? I mean, we had 8 minutes stoppage time. So we had 68 minutes to score a goal, and we didn't look like it. We didn't look like scoring at all. We could have played for an extra 15, 20 minutes. We weren't going to score. The same way that against Brighton, we weren't going to score. And like Brighton, the game was similar to the game against Brighton on Thursday in that the first 20 minutes of the game, we did okay. Made a couple of chances, half chances here and there. Chances that maybe another team, a more clinical team, would have taken. Anthony had a chance. Bruno just dragged one just wide of the post. I think it was Ericsson put one over the bar. And you can end watching it, you can already feel it again, can't you? Here we go. Missing a couple of chances. Missing a chance here, a chance there. And then the moment the opposition team scores, game over. It was game over from 30 minutes. Because we knew we weren't going to score a goal. That's it. We knew we weren't scoring a goal. And that's the problem, because we are not clinical enough. And then that does lead into the issue of asking your defence and your keeper to be perfect. Because if they're not, we lose. And that's what happened yesterday, and that's what happened against Brighton on Thursday. But at the same time, you cannot ignore with De Gea that mistake and how that's happened before this season. That's happened before in other seasons. And again, some of those mistakes have got nothing to do with distribution this season. And then you add in the distribution issues, which are issues, and there have been more mistakes as well. And it's a problem. Now, I bring you news this morning when it comes to David De Gea, because after the game, Erik ten Hag, as one would expect, backed his goalkeeper. And he was asked about the mistake, and he was asked about his future. And Erik ten Hag said, quote, "We want him to stay, and we want him to extend his contract." It was also reported, I believe, as well, from Mike Keegan from the Daily Mail, that positive discussions are continuing between Manchester United and long-serving goalkeeper David De Gea over a new deal. Now, this was posted like right after the game, so I would argue that, Mike Keegan knows exactly what he's doing. Exactly what he's doing with that. There is a lot of anger and frustration within the fan base, and they do that because it's just, let's pour some gasoline on that fire, right? Let's pour some gasoline on it. And Ten Hag is obviously going to come out and back his keeper in a press conference after a game, particularly after they make a defeat, because you've got him till the end of the season anyway, and you need him to try and build up his confidence. However, this, to me, his comments there felt more than just, I'm trying to sort of G him up, and, I'm just trying to sort of save face in front of the media. He is spout out in black and white there. He has said not only does he want him to stay, they want him to extend his contract. They want him to be there next season. They want to sign him to a new deal. Now, they don't want to sign him to the terms of his current contract because they could have already. Remember, they still have that option to extend his contract. They still have that option there, and they could have extended it by just using that extension option, but they didn't, because that would mean he would remain on the current terms, which is like 325k a week. If we qualify for the Champions League, it's back up to 375. And, and whilst I still think we're going to do it, now maybe I'm in the minority with that one, I still do think we're just going to fall over the line, if they triggered the option, he'd be back to nearly 400k settings again next season, which is ridiculous. So they want him to stay on a lesser wage, but because of how big that contract is, even the lesser wage is the highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League wage. And not just after yesterday, but given the situation that he's in at the moment and the way that Ten Hag wants to play, again, wanting a goalkeeper to be more proficient with his feet and the mistakes. Again, I sit here as a De Gea fan, and as someone who has said that De Gea is not the biggest priority to get next season, because I still don't think it's the number one priority next season. I still do think getting a striker, a 20-plus goal striker next season is the biggest priority, because if we had a 20-plus goal striker this season, we'd have qualified for the top 4 by now. And it's because of the inability to score goals that these other issues are being sort of, a greater light is being shined on them. But at the same time, as I said, I can't sit here and justify David De Gea being the highest paid goalkeeper in the Premier League. I just cannot do that, because that is not accurate. It's not. But the priority still is the striker, and this all sort of ties in. It's like a deck of cards, isn't it? A house of cards rather. It all ties into, if we had a bigger budget, if we had more money available to us, if we had a future that we were certain of, and we knew how our owners were going to be, and we knew what our budgets were going to be next summer or this coming summer, then maybe getting a goalkeeper would be higher on the list of priorities. But as of right now, Erik Ten Hag doesn't know what his budget is. The transfer window opens in 30-something days. It's not even that far away. It's June, beginning of June, I think it is. Just over a month. And Erik Ten Hag has no idea what his budget is. He has no idea who his bosses are going to be. He has no idea who's going to be owning the club that he's managing right now. He can't effectively prepare and plan for the future, because the future is incredibly uncertain. There is no long-term strategic plan, because who's the one putting that plan in place? No idea. And you've seen the frustration in recent press conferences from him about it. So if he had, even if it was Sir Jim Ratcliffe or if it's Sheikh Jassim or whatever, he could say, okay, I know my budget is going to be this, and I know that they've promised me this. So yes, the number one priority is a striker, but then maybe we look into a goalkeeper, blah, blah, blah. But as of right now for him, the most effective thing to do is to tie him down to another contract. So he thinks, well, maybe I've just got 100 million to spend. And if that's the case, I just need to spend it on a striker. That's it. It's chaos. Like everything with Manchester United, again, as we get closer to a big summer transfer window, it starts to get chaotic and nobody knows what's going on. And in the backdrop of that, we've still got a Premier League season to finish. And if we're not careful, we won't fall over the line, even though I think we will, just about, given all of the chaos and all of the noise. It's really concerning. It's really worrying. A couple of super chats and member chats. Let me get to them first, and then we'll carry on. Scroll all the way up. Daniel Luciano was first. See if I can find his one. Here we go. Daniel Luciano has been a member for 3 months. Says, our players haven't backed their teammate by never compensating for their mistake, i.e. Shaw or De Gea. Also, we have become Chelsea. No finishing. Well, as I mentioned, when it comes to the mistake, I do think there are two parts of it. You know, contrary to social media's belief, not everything is black or white. There is shades of grey, not 50, when it comes to it. And again, I do think that you can't excuse for the mistakes that have been made, the individual errors. But at the same time, I think it does a disservice just to focus solely on them and say, in a good team, in an effective team, those individual mistakes don't cost the teams the game because they have time to react. I mean, Luke Shaw's one against Brighton, that happens with the last action of the game, essentially. But even prior to them, we miss chances and we make our own luck. Yesterday, the mistake happens, but we had plenty of time to go in that game and score a goal. We offered nothing. We gave up again, or we just had the mindset of we're not coming back from this because we don't score. That's also part of the problem as to why we lost, in my opinion. PS says, thoughts on Henderson next season and De Gea going. You know what? When it comes to Dean Henderson, yeah. I'm not saying that Dean Henderson should come back and replace David De Gea because I think I've seen a couple of those takes and I think they're pretty wild considering all the stuff that he said, right? However, if given the financial situation at United, let's say hypothetically it is just 100 million to spend. I know player sales and you can maybe get a bit higher. If I was Ten Hag, I'd at least have a conversation with Dean Henderson and say, how are you feeling ahead of next season? I'm not saying you can come to Man United and be the number one, and I think I don't think Dean Henderson, you know, what has he done to say that he should be number one at Manchester United? Nothing. You know, who the hell are you? Yeah, and he's gone to Nottingham Forest. I know he's out of action with an injury at the moment, but the season he's had doesn't say anything of, he's got to come back to United. He's got to come back to United and be amazing. No, that hasn't worked out for him that way. It's not been like the loan move was for him at Sheffield United. But if I was Ten Hag and I was thinking, like again, the money isn't there to get a goalkeeper in the summer, maybe you do bring Henderson back. And I know he said he doesn't want to sit on the bench and fight for the number one position. But if I was Henderson, I'd say, well, that was under a different manager. All that stuff happened with Ollie. And go on tour and see what happens. Maybe you do get your foot in the door. I don't know. You know, there have been players this season that we didn't think were going to have much of an impact, and then they ended up having a bigger impact because they had an opportunity or a run in the team. So again, if I was Henderson, or if I was Ten Hag, I'd have the conversation. I'd also have a look at, you know, you're talking about David Raya at Brentford. We know he's probably going to go in the summer. He's told Brentford, I'm not signing a new contract. I've got 1 year left. I want to go. And there are people circling around him. If I'm United, I'm looking to do effective business, which I know United and effective business don't really go together. But if I was Man United, I'd say, hey, Brentford, we don't really have the money to spend 40 million on a goalkeeper, but we already have a goalkeeper here in Dean Henderson. And we've got a goalkeeper in Henderson that doesn't really want to be here that much. David Raya for Dean Henderson, swap deal. Maybe we give you a little bit of extra money. That's not a bad deal to do. If you're Brentford, you'd go, the keeper goes that doesn't want to be here and he's got 1 year left on his contract. We don't essentially let him go for a free. We do get some money and we also do get a goalkeeper that is Premier League proven, and I think Dean Henderson would suit Brentford pretty well, actually. You could see Dean Henderson playing for Brentford. So why not, if you're United, try and work out a deal? Dean Henderson for David Raya plus a little bit of cash. I mean, we're talking about selling Dean Henderson and how much he'd be worth. 20 million, 30 million because of the English tax. I know that transfers don't really work like that in real life, and it's very much FIFA transfer guru here, and it's very easy to say on social media, or it's very easy to come on here and just swap him for this, swap him for that. But to me, that isn't a completely unfeasible deal if I was United. And I would say, that does solve a few issues, but it requires competence from a transfer perspective, and that's competence that we don't really have. Jordan Astro says, this squad is full of mentality midgets. Can't perform under pressure. If we get top four, it's solely down to home form. God help us against Bournemouth. And RM99 says, thoughts on Anthony thus far. I do think there's more to come when it comes to. I do think there's more to come with Anthony. He's very frustrating, really, really frustrating. Again, it's decision making. That's the problem. Decision making from Anthony. But I do think he'll get better. But like yesterday again, he's not clinical enough. He's not. And look, I know people are going to say with the Henderson thing, are you forgetting the interview he did? No, of course I'm not. And in an ideal world, again, he would never play. But my example with that is in a situation whereby we don't have a lot of money, and depending on how badly Erik ten Hag would want to address the goalkeeping situation, why wouldn't you bring him back? And again, not bring him back to be like you're going straight in as the number one, but bring him back to say, let's see what happens. You know? But again, I do think there would be deals to be made involving him leaving too. But I know that's a polarizing opinion, certainly. Be sure to smash a like on the like button, by the way, guys. Got nearly 600 people watching. Less than 100 likes. Less than 100 likes. See what some of you guys are saying in the chat too. Truth Seeker says Henderson is a championship level goalkeeper. I think that's harsh on him. Like I'm not the biggest Henderson fan, and I do think those on Twitter overrate him. And I've seen those weird Team Dino accounts and all that kind of stuff. But say he's a championship level goalkeeper, I think is harsh. The interview he did last year, by the way, I wasn't a fan of at the time. I thought it came across as arrogance, and this is what I'm saying too. In that, if his mindset is, I only come back to United if they promise that I'm number one, then I would say then don't come back, because any player, even that's Harry Maguire levels of delusion, because that's of the mindset of I don't need to prove myself. I should be number one. Why? Well, because I should be number one. I was promised it by a prior manager. Well, no. No player has a divine right to play. You have to earn it. You have to work for it. And ultimately, Dean Henderson, what have you done to earn it? What have you done to prove that you should be United's number one? Nothing. Now, if you want to come back, because he's got 3 years left on his contract. I think he signed, was it a 5-year deal under Ollie? So he's got like 3 years left, something like that. If you want to come back and you want to prove yourself and you want to compete, with De Gea, then in a summer that maybe we don't have a huge amount of money to spend, maybe that is an option for Erik ten Hag. But to come back and think, I should be playing number one, again, what have you done this season? But if you want to come back to compete, that's a different story. But he did make it difficult for himself with that interview. But I don't even think he's ever had a conversation with Ten Hag. I mean, that's what he said in the interview too. I didn't speak to the manager. I didn't want to train under him because I knew he'd want to keep me, blah, blah, blah. Again, I thought it was a very arrogant interview. Very, very arrogant interview. And if he has that same attitude and mentality, then again, he should go. But if he does want to compete, then you're under contract. So that is going to be an interesting one, certainly. But ultimately, I would expect to see him. Probably leave in the summer. And if United again had any transfer competence, they would do a good deal with Brentford. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Duma says, does anyone really have to prove themselves when they earn more than the majority of the players in the league? Who is that referring to? Is that referring to Henderson, or is that referring to Maguire? I'm not sure who that was referring to. Let me know and I'll respond to that. But yes, that is the latest news when it comes to David De Gea, is that Ten Hag says that he wants him to stay. I think that it's going to be a really interesting day and a very fascinating reaction as to if and when David De Gea's new contract does get announced. Because let's face it, the most likely outcome and scenario here is that he does stay, sign a new deal, and that day the reaction to it is going to be really interesting. Because as time goes on, I think more people after yesterday, certainly, I think more people are leaning towards we need to maybe explore more options, and it is a really difficult one, because at the same time, he does have the most clean sheets in the Premier League, and he has won us games this season, but also he has cost us games this season too. And yesterday with him, it wasn't just that mistake. He was poor yesterday. He was poor yesterday. He made a couple of mistakes, and as I mentioned, it could have been more than 1-0. But against Brighton, though, he was all right. He was good against Brighton. He made some big saves too. But does it balance out? I don't know. And the team has modified because he can't do what the manager ultimately would like him to do. In an ideal world, Man United, in Erik ten Hag's vision, in an ideal world, United would be playing out from the back, irrespective of how much pressure is being put on them by the opposition. And we have at times had to sort of tweak that system and change that system because our goalkeeper is unable to do that. You know, with the first 2 games of the season, we tried to do it and we couldn't do it. So suddenly it was like, hey, we're not going to play over a high line anymore. We're going to drop a bit deeper. We are going to occasionally play out from the back, but we're going to play percentages now and we're going to go long because the keeper can't really do it. And again, that's not to say that it's the ultimate top priority, but it does feel like it is a bit of a problem. Now, it was quite interesting, I thought, what I think it was Rio Ferdinand and Peter Crouch were saying on BT after the game yesterday. Peter Crouch said, quote, "He's been a top-class goalkeeper over the years, but at the moment, it feels like he's making big errors in big games." Peter Crouch also said, if he's in contract negotiations making mistakes like that, it's never going to help. Ferdinand then said, "In terms of shot stopping, he's made a mistake today, but that's not the area I question him. Is he a good enough footballer to play for Manchester United?" And like I said, ultimately, Ten Hag says that he wants him to stay and he wants to keep him. So I don't know. A couple of other comments here. Paul Greaves says the scouts need to do their job and find the best young goalkeeper out there, just like Sir Alex Ferguson's team did when they scouted David De Gea. Wizard says, "Owen, why does United sign reserve goalkeepers? It doesn't make any sense because they get no game time." It's kind of par for the course, in fairness, when it comes to backup keepers. I mean, I think it just goes to show how far ahead City are, really. When they played West Ham at home, they played their second choice goalkeeper, and it was like there was no difference. It was literally like no difference, because they're so strong defensively and offensively. Didn't matter. Like, that was it. Didn't matter at all. A couple of things I do want to talk about as well this morning is Frankie de Jong. Yes, we're going back there, Frankie de Jong. And to be honest, I was worried about this. I was concerned about this. The moment that I saw, stuff talking about Lionel Messi and him leaving PSG in the summer, and Barca trying to figure out how could we bring him back, how could we do this, how could we do that. Well, a new report this morning has suggested, it's from Mundo Deportivo, they've said that Barcelona are continuing to face financial issues, and they're saying that the Spanish club will look to make savings by offering Frankie de Jong a new deal on a lower salary. Now, it does not mean that the 25-year-old will agree to the new contract, though, meaning they might need to cash in on him in an effort to balance the books. United retain an interest in de Jong and are being linked with a move again should he be made available for transfer. Now, after going through all of this last summer, I don't want to go through it again. The only way that I would be interested in jumping back on the Frankie de Jong bandwagon is if, guaranteed, he did want to come and he was interested in a transfer. And honestly, that is where the Champions League does come into it, because last season it was he doesn't want to leave Barcelona. That was the biggest thing. And it proved to be true. Throughout all of it, there was he doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He doesn't want to leave. And he didn't want to leave in the end. But it was also, why would he want to come to Manchester United? They're rubbish and they're not in the Champions League. And let's face it, if we do bottle top 4, kiss goodbye to Frankie de Jong, kiss goodbye to Victor Osimhen, kiss goodbye to Harry Kane. We ain't getting any of them, because why would they want to come to United in that instance? Let alone, again, the backdrop of what's going on when it comes to the takeover stuff. But if we did get Champions League and Barca, and he said, well, maybe I would be interested in coming to United now, of course, I'd still take Frankie de Jong. I would, because he is a player that our team is missing, and we need more midfielders that can, again, do what Ten Hag wants. Technically, he's superb, but I'm just not willing to jump into that whole thing again and waste the whole summer with it. Does he want to come? Doesn't he want to come? Of course, Barca would want to offer him a new contract on reduced terms, because I think, is he the highest paid player at Barcelona? His wage is ridiculous. Absolutely insane. Frankie de Jong's wage. And I don't even know at this point what the situation is about the deferred or wages and all that kind of stuff. I have no idea if he got that back. I know that when PK retired, essentially he said, oh, forget it. And a lot of the owed wages to him just kind of vanished. So I don't know with that situation, but that's something to keep an eye out on for the summer. And but as I said earlier on, talking about transfers at this point does feel almost redundant, doesn't it? Because how can you plan for players that you're looking for when you have no idea what the budget is, you have no idea what the future of the club is, and also if you're going to get Champions League or not? Obviously, you have to. I would guess you'd have to plan with the intention of, we're going to get Champions League, but you don't know. And as I said, if we don't get Champions League 2, kiss goodbye to a lot of these big targets. I say kiss goodbye to Harry Kane because I know Spurs aren't going to be in the Champions League as well, but realistically, he wouldn't. The real need to make that move might not be there for him. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and Daniel Levy's going to be reluctant to sell anyway, and he's not going to want to sell. And I do think he would take the risk of having him play out his contract and say, hey, if we get, I don't know, they've been linked to, I think, Nagelsmann or whatever. If we get Julian Nagelsmann in, you never know. We could qualify for the top 4 next season, and then we've got a stronger hand to give Harry Kane, and he might decide to stick around or something like that. I really do think Daniel Levy would risk that. And if United aren't in the Champions League, Harry Kane might look around and say, well, then at this point, jumping to United's a bit of a sideways move. Do I really want to be going there at this point in time? Maybe I do leave it. Maybe I do leave it one more season, and then when my contract expires, I can go anywhere I want, and suddenly every club's open to me, and I'm not shoehorned just to go to United or just, the one club that's interested right now. I can go to Bayern Munich and they don't have to worry about a transfer fee, or I can go to Spain and they don't have to worry about a transfer fees. I'm in complete control of that. So again, all of this, summer plans and all this kind of stuff really does feel like it hangs in the balance of what's going to happen over the next 4 games. And this was another thing I was talking to Flex about yesterday, is that 3 wins out of 4, do we believe that we're going to do that? Actually, I'll put a poll in the chat because I think that's an interesting question. Will United get 3 wins out of the last 4 games? Question mark. Poll is in the chat right now. I think I find it interesting, the difference between the expectations of the media and the expectation of the fans, because I saw a lot of the discourse yesterday from those within the media was, I think it was Rob Dawson from ESPN. I think he put out a tweet and it said something, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it said something to the effect of, Man United slip up again away today at West Ham, but they still should qualify for the top 4 and they will get over the line. And lots of people push back on that by saying, you sound very confident. Like, what has given you the reason to think that United will get 3 wins out of 4? And the point is that 3 of those 4 games are at home against sides that we should be beating, which is true. But at the same time, we've also had games recently that we should have been winning and we haven't been. Yesterday, I know it's away from home, but this was meant to be the away game against a team in the bottom half that we should have been winning, and we didn't. And it puts a huge amount of unnecessary pressure, because then those 3 home games essentially become 3 cup finals. And we obviously got that away game against Bournemouth. Now, if we can win away against Bournemouth, then you'll be like, yes, we're nearly there. But we're at the stage now. I don't know about you. This is how I feel. We're at the stage now, or I am certainly, where those games, even the home game against Wolves next week, a couple of weeks ago, I'd been like, yeah, well, it's at home, it's Wolves, we're going to win that one. And it does just feel like there's just a huge amount of uncertainty in every game. At this point, I don't know what Man United is going to show up in all of these games. And it's more hope as opposed to expectation. A couple of months ago, if you'd have said these 4 games, you said Wolves at home, Bournemouth away, Chelsea at home, Fulham at home, the expectation would be that we'd get 12 points. That would be the expectation. Now it's become the hope. Because I'm not sure what the expectation is anymore with those 4 games. My feeling is, what is our recent form in the in the Premier League? Because to expect United to win 3 games in a row or 4 games in a row just doesn't feel like that's been happening recently for us. Let's have a look here. Last 5 games. Let's go to the table. So our last 5 games in the Premier League have been win, draw, win, 2 losses. And we've got to go from that, which is just inconsistent. Like that is the epitome of inconsistent form. Out of the last 5, 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, to go to 3 wins out of your last 4. That's an issue. That's a problem. And you want to look at like our recent matches in terms of our goal scoring in recent matches too, because this is also an issue. So you look at, we didn't score against West Ham, we didn't score against Brighton, and we scored 1 against Villa. So already in our last 3 games, we only scored 1 goal. Scored 2 against Spurs, but then didn't score against Brighton in the FA Cup, didn't score against Sevilla. So in our last, 2, 4, 6 games, we've scored 3 goals. And in 4 of them, we didn't score any. So that's my point when I say that it's gone from expectation to get 12 into 12 points or 9 into hoping that we get 12. That's an issue. That's a massive problem. Now I do think we'll beat Wolves at Old Trafford on Saturday. And if we don't, look, if we drop points, not even if we lose or draw, if we just drop points against Wolves on Saturday, then whilst mathematically it's not over, then I'd go it's over. Because I know after that you can get 3 wins still, and 3 wins in a row. But by that point, I'd say the momentum is gone. We just don't have any momentum at this point at all. And we're just not doing what we should be doing. So we need, Saturday, we need to win. We need a convincing win, I think. It can't just be a 1-0 as well. We can't be scraping by, because United too, we've been scraping through games for a while now. And this was another thing I was chatting to Flex about yesterday. I think, when was the last time that United played a game and coming out of it you go, we played really, really well in that game, and I'm really happy with that performance. For me, the last time I can recall United, we played really, really well, was probably Barcelona in the second leg. Honestly, I think that's the last time and that was in February. That was the last time that I thought we came out of it and went, United really, they deserve that. And in that game too, we went 1-0 down. People forget that. We were playing so well at that period of time that we went 1-0 down and we still came back. And we've like, yes, we can come back from that. We showed resilience. Since then, all of the games have been very sort of just getting through the games, just sort of stumbling through the games. Even when we won the Carabao Cup final, which was the game after that against Newcastle, I thought it was a final that was played very well, but it was kind of sort of smash and grab settings. Score a goal from a set piece, get another goal against a Newcastle side that did have a couple of injuries that day, particularly the goalkeeper. And then since then, picking up wins, but been scraping through games, and then some big defeats too. Whether it's losing against Liverpool 7-0, or drawing against Southampton at home, beating Fulham in the FA Cup, but that's because they went down to 9 men, losing against Newcastle. And then even in the more recent past, we beat Brentford at home 1-0, scraped through that one, beat Everton at home 2-0. That could have been a completely different storyline. Storyline, a scoreline, WWE. And we missed chances that day as well. And really, ever since that Sevilla first leg, last 10 minutes, I don't think we've been the same. I don't. My feeling is that game against Sevilla, that last 10 minutes, Varane going off at half-time, Martinez getting injured, surrendering the 2-goal lead, I don't think United have looked the same since then. Yes, after that we beat Forest away, not a good Forest side, but then that's when we lose against Sevilla 3-0. We just get through in the semi-final, win on penalties, bottled a lead against Tottenham, just scrape past Aston Villa at Old Trafford, lose against Brighton, lose against West Ham. I do trace it back to, again, that Sevilla game, that second half. We haven't looked the same since. And in terms of an overall good performance, in a real big important game, it was Barcelona. And you do get the impression that United are just sort of, we're stumbling, and the hope is that we've got enough of a stumble left just to get over the line, just to fall over the line. And I do think it is a positive that we've got a stretch of time now between now and the Wolves game. First time since the World Cup that we haven't had to play on a Thursday. And to be honest, if we'd have got through against Sevilla, it'd be a bit of a problem because we'd be preparing for a game against Juventus on Thursday. And how would that have affected the run-in too? So that would have been a problem. But now Ten Hag does have 6 days, and the players have 6 days to recover. Ten Hag has 6 days to figure it out. And we've got to see, not only have we got to get a result, and obviously the result is the most important thing, but we've got to see a performance, I think. Against Wolves, it's not going to be enough for me, again, to scrape through it 1-0 and be like, yes, we just got through that one. We need a performance that can build momentum. We need a performance that can establish confidence. We need to score more than 1 goal. We need to, again, get a big home victory that can push us into the next game against Bournemouth away and maybe get a result there. And even I'm saying that, maybe get a result away at Bournemouth. What? What? That's how far we've come. That our away form is that bad that we're going, Bournemouth away, I'm not sure about that one. That's how shaky the confidence is right now. So against Wolves, yeah, we need a performance. We don't just need a result, we need a performance too. Whether we'll get it or not, again, I have no idea what to expect with Manchester United at the moment. A couple of super chats here. Make sure I get to them. M. Sati says, De Gea career can be the documentary of human duality. And I think there was another one that I missed. That, for some reason, it's not coming up on my thing. I think it was from David T. Says, heck, I'd want to be number one, seeing David De Gea play like he is. So we're caught up with the super chats as well. Be sure to click the like button as well. Got over 700 people watching. So if you haven't already, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right hand corner. Remember, we've got a big day of content here on United View. Tactical View, it's on its way later on this afternoon, which given Cam's previous sentiments about David De Gea, it's going to be interesting to see what he says, certainly. In addition to that, of course, Full View coming normal time, 6 p.m. Full panel as always. That's going to be a lot of fun to see what the guys have to say too. A couple of other things that I do want to talk about before we do wrap things up. One was about Garnacho, because it was something that Kenny and myself spoke about on the full-time view yesterday. Be sure to check that out. We're going to be building out that show and evolving it into something actually quite fun. So keep an eye on that one. But Garnacho was on the bench yesterday, and to me, it was surprising to see him not come on, because if he's fit enough for the bench, surely he would be fit enough to come on for 10 minutes. And I felt the game needed that. We needed something. We needed something different. We needed something we needed a spark. We needed energy. We needed something direct. And I know that Garnacho has had no minutes, essentially, and he's just come back from the injury. But if he's on the bench, then why not bring him on? Why not give him a go? Why not see what happens? Now, Ten Hag was asked about this after the game. And he said, quote, he was on the bench then. Of course, he is capable of playing. But we also had other options with Martial and Jadon Sancho, with Sabitzer, offensive and fit, very fit. Players are there and present, then you have to play them. But in 1 week, you have to see. It's 1 week extra, and he is brave. He can make a difference, yeah. You have seen we tried to change them, but that's always difficult when you are losing. You saw the team wanted, they put a lot of effort in, and on occasions they go in the wrong positions. They are forcing too much too quickly, then it's counterproductive. So we have to learn from such situations. Stay calm, stay composed, then you create chances. We had some chances. The best I think was Martial, but we have to create more. And to be honest, I kind of disagree with what Ten Hag was saying there, because he kind of dodged the question a little bit, because he sort of, the question was put to him, why didn't Garnacho come on? He said, well, he was fit to come on, but we had other players that were more fit and ready in Jadon Sancho and Sabitzer. So you're kind of implying that Garnacho wasn't fit enough already to be on the bench. And I kind of agree with what Kenny was saying on the full-time view yesterday. He was saying that he thinks Jadon Sancho has been a bit unfortunate and a bit unlucky in the last couple of weeks. And I thought he was unfortunate coming out of the Spurs game, because he played well against Spurs. Obviously got his goal in the first half, and he played well. But did he start then in the follow-up game against Aston Villa? I don't think he did he? Oh, he did. And then he came off. And then he didn't play against Brighton because Ten Hag, I guess, wanted players that were more defensively disciplined, and didn't start rather against Brighton, didn't start against West Ham. But I don't think Jadon Sancho is that player to bring on that's going to give a game a spark. I just don't think he is that. I know he's come on, I think it was against Leeds this season, came on, got a goal. But for me, if you last 10 minutes and your team isn't creating all that much, and it's flat and it's slow, you bring on Garnacho instead of Jadon Sancho, because he is direct and he is just different, and he is, again, an injection of energy and pace into the game. I think if you bring on Jadon Sancho in that situation, it's more of the same, really. It's more of the same of the players you've got on the pitch. Nice, intricate passing, intricate touches, all that kind of stuff, trying to sort of thread the ball through. But Garnacho would be something different. Or, as Jason says, or Facundo. I mean, I still, at this point, don't know what Facundo Pellistri has to do to get on the pitch. And again, when he has come on, I think he's impressed. And I know people will say, bringing on youngsters. You always say bringing on the youngsters. But at that point, when it's 10 minutes left to go, why not? Why not put on Facundo at that point? I don't know why. I don't. And again, I know people will talk about the De Gea mistake, and that's fair. But they still had plenty of time to go on and create and score goals after that game, and after that mistake, and we didn't in the game. We didn't at all. And again, that's particularly frustrating as well. And now it's going to be a big week, isn't it? A really big week for Manchester United. Let's have a look at the poll that's in the chat here. So we've got nearly 300 votes. By the way, some would describe it as a disgrace and a cheat, because we've got 300 votes in the chat and in the poll in the chat. And I believe if I look at the likes, only 150. Well, we're living in a reality where the poll has got double the clicks than the likes. Maybe I need to go on strike again. But the poll is saying that, and the question was, will United get 3 wins out of the last 4 games? 60% say no. 60% say they don't think United will get 3 wins out of the last 4 games. And only 40% saying yes. Again, my feeling is that we'll do it. And people might say that's toxic positivity, and there is a big bit of hopium involved in that. I can't lie. There is hopium involved in that one, because from what we have seen in the last 5 games, which is 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw, that is not good enough evidence to suggest that we will in the next 4 games get 3 wins out of 4. But you've got to believe, and they are games that we should be winning. We should be beating Wolves at home. We should be beating Bournemouth away. Chelsea at home. This season, we should be beating Chelsea at home. But wouldn't it be just our luck that Chelsea just suddenly decided to start beating Chelsea again? I know they just beat Bournemouth away, which some would say, hey, well, if Chelsea can beat Bournemouth away, why can't we? Why can't we beat Bournemouth away? Well, I'll tell you why we can't beat Bournemouth away, because away from home we're shit. We're rubbish away from home. But that's why it's important. That's why it's so key that it's not just the result against Wolves. As I said, it's the performance. We need a performance against Wolves where it's not just 1-0 scrape through. We need a 2-0. We need a 3-0. We need something. We need a reaction. And I'm so tired, and I'm sure Eric Ten Hag is, I'm so tired of seeing Ten Hag have to go out into these press conferences, and he'll have to do it Friday, going, Eric, how did your team bounce back from a result like this? And he'll go, well, we've it's clear, we bounced back. We've bounced back this season. We'll do it again. And I've said it a million times that I'm blue in the face with these press conference reactions this season. Why can't they do it during the game? Bounce back during the game. Don't wait till the next one. When your goalkeeper F's up, go, oh, okay, let's go up the other end and score 2 goals and win this game. Not next time we'll bounce back. It's like a shitty cartoon. Stay tuned for next time. Next time we'll see what happens. Why is everything a cliffhanger? Complete it in the game. Respond, react, show character. Show character, do something. But they can't do that. It's until the next one. Get the next one. And there's not enough time now. There's not enough time for bounce back in the next game. Because one more slip up, I mean, technically, we've got one more slip up in us. And then it's bounced back again. But we're running out of time. We're running out of time for we'll bounce back again next time. And 4 games left. 3 wins. It's in our hands. But just. And do we trust it to be in our hands? I don't know if I do. And got a big couple of weeks coming up. Big up DJ's in the chat. He says these players are done. Just calling how I see it. DJ's not happy. But there you go, guys. As I mentioned, big day coming up here on United View. We've got the tactical view coming up this afternoon. And full view this evening. Tomorrow will be, as always, FIFA with Flex and KG and the Flex and KG show. Wednesday, Red Room. Thursday, continuing to build to the game. Friday, press conference, preview, etc. Then Saturday, match day. And it feels like a lifetime away, doesn't it? But we've got a full week planned ahead, so fingers crossed. Believe. Have a great morning, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.